today's video, I want to go over the Assault class and the Thunder Hammer specifically. There's just a few things that the class needs to make it absolutely perfect. And when I say perfect, I don't mean overpowered, right? I just mean just the fluidity of the combat and just for the class to feel better as a melee class in general, so it doesn't have to always rely on gun strikes more so than the melee combat, right? The devs have said that they're going to be looking into it and hopefully making some changes in the near future. So if you guys have any cool ideas, drop them in the comment section below. If this video somehow reaches any of them, that would be really cool. And by the way, shout out to the devs. The combat in this game is ridiculously fun. Now let's talk about the hammer. Specifically, I want to talk about the Aftershock ability. So this is the ability which you can use without charging up fully, but if you want to deal massive damage, you gotta go for the full charge. However, the problem is in most encounters, if you're going against bosses or elites, you simply do not have enough openings or time to get the full charge. And if you try to do so, most of the time, you're just gonna get staggered while attempting the charge. Even if you completely build into it, is very hard to pull off when we're talking about full charges. Yes, you can pull off the Aftershocks without fully charging it. And by the way, I have a full video on animation canceling on the Assault class, which definitely makes the combat better. So make sure to check that video out. I'm gonna drop that in the description. And that's not even the only problem. The problem is because it takes so long, even if you build into decreasing the charge speed, at the same time as you're charging, you're taking tons of damage. So there's no damage reduction while you're charging as well. And I want to discuss this idea that I have for the hammer that I truly believe would make it so much better, man. And it's going to be so much fun to use at the same time. A really cool system would be to have a stagger meter build up. So what does that mean? As you deal more and more heavy damage, for example, your slam or your charged up Aftershock, not fully charged, just Aftershock, you build up a meter. Just for the sake of the argument, let's say it needs 7 to 10 heavy attacks. You deal this and then your meter is full. Now you get a chance to activate this meter, and once you do, for the next 10 seconds, you cannot be staggered while performing Aftershock. So you can just stand there and fully charge it. When you're going against a boss or an elite, that's going to be up to you. But at least that way, we are going to have the option to kind of lean into it and just go for it. Like if I want to see quick high damage, and I'm okay with taking damage myself, I'm just gonna go for it. My meter is full and I can use it, right? At the same time, maybe you're taking out like smaller enemies or elites and you're keeping the meter for a boss that you're expecting, or maybe a boss at the end of the mission, whatever it is. That's going to be up to you. That would also make boss fights more interesting because you can charge up this meter on the bosses themselves, right? And this meter should charge up also when you're flying in with your main signature ability. So I think that this would make the combat much more interesting overall. And on top of that, what they could do for a little bit of survivability, as soon as you get that meter charged, and now you're using those 10 seconds to not get staggered, as you're charging up your ability during these 10 seconds, you should take maybe 30% less damage. So that way you have some kind of game within a game, so to speak, right? So combat isn't just swinging the hammer, but it's like building up this meter that will pay off in the long run when you're going against bosses or elites. This would be like my perfect case scenario for this class. I think that would be so much fun if we had something like that. But let's say that's not going to happen, or maybe it's too hard for the devs to implement. In that case, I would say maybe decrease the charge time of the hammer. And the reason I say that, right, is because a lot of the times the hammer just simply does not have openings to fully charge your attack. And that's why I want that stagger meter. I think that counters all of those issues. But once again, if that is not possible, it would be nice to decrease the charge time for the hammer. I think that it would also fix some of the issues, and it would give us the ability to go for those fully charged attacks with the Aftershock, with those beautiful double slams. Because let's be honest, man, that's the fun of the Thunder Hammer. You want to see that crazy thunder damage. And I think that's what it's missing. And with all of these changes, that could be possible. Another option would be to add some kind of perk that allows us to not get staggered while charging, but also against bosses and just across the board. And for example, if you activate this perk, the negative side of it would be that you lose 20% HP or like 30% HP. And at that point, we get the ability to choose options like this in a game like Space Marine 2, and especially on a class like Assault, would just make everything cooler. When it comes to survivability at the moment, I think that with the latest changes with the parries on Minoris enemies, the class is in a pretty good spot. I don't see a big problem with it. Remember, you also have amazing class perks, which give you armor even on non-lethal gun strikes, which is huge. On top of that, you get an armor on gun strikes when you get a kill. So there's many ways at the moment for the Assault to get back their armor. Like, you're consistently getting it back. And I don't see a problem with survivability. As soon as you master the parries, you should be fine, right? It's so much better after that patch. Like, it really is. And you got to remember, they also nerfed the range damage of the enemies. And what you can do now without taking some ridiculous damage every time is that if you see a long-ranged enemy, you fly up and you prioritize those enemies first. So you just change position if you really want to get to them very fast, which you should be doing that, right? Like, because those guys are deadly no matter how you look at it. So you can just fly at them, take them out easy peasy, and then just move on. So once again, these are what I think that would make the Assault class just so much more fun to play. Let's quickly go over the Assault class itself. I think that overall, one of the main things it's going to need to use your signature skill 3 times instead of 2. That would be very nice. That would give us a chance to fight more hordes like consistently, and that would also give us a chance to move the perks around. We all know that in PvP and in the campaign as well, it works much more differently. Like, you can fly up way higher and just move in the air way more freely, and on top of that, you have more uses. So let's get things out of the way. This is a Thunder Hammer. It's supposed to be ridiculously strong. So I think that it would be fair if we had a version of the hammer with like 12 plus damage on fencing. And even then, I still don't think it's going to be overpowered. I think it's just going to make it way more consistent with the combinations. So I think that alone would give us a lot of more consistency in combat. Don't get me wrong, the Assault class feels much better now after the latest update, but I feel like the combat should be more focused on melee attacks more than it should be on gun strikes, right? And I feel like the fluidity of the combat is not quite there because our highest damage is tied to the charged attacks, but we can't really pull them off 90% of the time. Especially, as mentioned, if you're against a boss, it's almost impossible. You're consistently getting hit and staggered while you're charging. And some of the bosses you can't even do anything to because they're in the air. So yeah, I feel like these changes will make the class feel like it's supposed to feel. Just give us the ability to not get staggered, to use the class to its full potential, and that's about it. Okay, that's gonna be it for this one. I just wanted to share these thoughts with you guys. Make sure to let me know what you guys think about this, man. I would love to hear your thoughts. I always answer as many comments as possible. If you guys like the idea, make sure to share this video. Maybe we somehow get it to the devs and maybe they like it, man. You never know. And if they do, that would be so cool to have this mechanic in the game. As always, guys, thank you for all the amazing love and support. Thank you for the 50K subs on the channel. You all are absolute legends. Stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.
Let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I mean, we literally have the best community of all time. Oh! Oh, he got no scoped.